My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today, we're going to be talking about what's going on in Eagle River. If you pay attention to the real estate market in South Central Alaska, you'll know that Eagle River is just one of those markets where it's not particularly big, but it is impactful for the area just because it's very desirable, and a lot of people do want to move there as a result of that. Before we get started though, do make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's go and jump into the real estate market looking first at the residential. Now, the first thing that we really want to talk about is what's going on in the residential side as far as the active inventory. So we see this time last year, there was about 94 properties that were available on the market. Now there's 49. So that's approximately half of what the inventory was this time last year. And that's really pretty consistent for what we've seen for the entire year up to this point. The most we've had has actually been 49. Usually it's been around like 30, dipped as low as 28 back in April, but you can see the inventory's really been pretty low this entire year up to this point. The next thing we see is that the number of properties that actually sold went from 60 this time last year to 42 this year. So even though we are seeing less inventory, proportionally though, we're not seeing the number of properties that have actually been selling drop at a proportionate level. So there's less properties that are selling, not by as much as you would expect just going off of the active inventory. The next thing we see is the average sold price, which is, realistically, what most of you actually tune in for anyway. And we see the average sold price went from about $468,000 this time last year, year to date, to about $504,000 this year, for an increase of 7.6% increase for the average sold price on the residential year to date. Now, this is the most aggressive increase we've seen on appreciation for at least the strictly residential single family home so far year to date for the entire area, looking at all the different markets. And the reason why is pretty clear. We'll talk more about it in the summary, but for now, just know, yes, the average sold price is increasing at a pretty sharp clip in Eagle River. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is what's going on in the condo market. Now, the condos have never particularly been a really up-and-coming strong part of the real estate market in Eagle River. I do suspect it's going to become more and more popular as the space for development just starts running out, and the only direction you can really go is up at that point. So I suspect condos are going to become more popular, but for the time being, I'm just going to say it's not a particularly big part of the market. We're going to cover it anyway, though. This time last year, there were 11 condos on the market in Eagle River. Now there are 5. Next thing we see is the number of condos that sold this time last year was 15, and the number of condos that sold this year for the month of July was 8. Now, what we see for the average sold price is the average sold price went from approximately $297,000 this time last year to an average about $298,000 this year. So it's about a 0.5% increase. And really more what it comes down to is just which specific properties actually sold, just because the sample size is so small. If you get one really good condo in a mix with a bunch of bad ones, it's going to artificially make it go up. Conversely, if you get one really bad one thrown into a bunch of good ones, it's going to bring the rest of them down to about average. So the sample size so small, it's hard to really extrapolate a whole lot of takeaways from this. But what I would say is if you had a condo that was, let's just say $200,000 this time last year, I would expect to see it slightly above from what we saw the year before. Let's go and take a break here real quick. Usually around this time, I'll be telling you guys about the Alaskan Journey podcast and a lot of other things we have going on for you. But I really am excited about letting you guys know about the monthly meetup that we are now hosting. The monthly meetup is really designed to be something where if you are new to Alaska, you just got here, not really sure where everything is, you're just trying to meet people, then this is the perfect thing for you. We get together once a month and we do something together as a group, whether that be hiking. This month we're doing a bonfire out at the Knik River. So if that's something you want to jump in on, do make sure you go check out the description section down below for the link to the Alaska monthly meetup. That is going to be a Facebook group, and we're going to have all the information about those meetups is going to be there. I'm going to try not to just bombard everyone with tons of notifications for it on email, text, all that stuff. We're going to try to keep it consolidated to that Facebook group. So if you're interested, make sure you're going there and you kind of utilize that as kind of your source of information, and it's going to give you a great opportunity to meet a bunch of people just like you and start building up that community. Now, let's go ahead and finish up today's market update, and we'll take a look at the multifamily market. Now, multifamily has never really been particularly, I'm not going to say popular, because it is definitely something you want if you can get it, but there's never been a particularly big pool of multifamily properties in Eagle River to begin with. It's a very desirable area. It's a low cap rate, which for those of you that are not aware, really what that is that's more or less kind of a measurement of how much headache you're going to have as you're dealing with property. If you have something where you cash flow a lot, but you are constantly having to go over there and take care of crazy scenarios, then that's going to be a high cap rate. You want a low cap rate, you might make less. You're also going to lose a whole lot less sleep over that property, as long as you make sure you actually properly vet your tenants. Now, what we see is this time last year, there were 2 multifamily properties available in Eagle River. Now there are 3. So there you go. If you're wanting to jump into multifamily in Eagle River, this is your chance. This time last year, we had 2 multifamily properties that sold, and this year we haven't sold any for the month of July. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is what's going on in the average sold price for multifamily. Let's not get too excited, but the average sold price for multifamily this time last year, year to date, was about $606,000, and now it's approximately $528,000, which is approximately a 14% drop in the average sold price. Again, before we get too excited, smaller sample size, same thing with condos, and just with it literally being a difference of a sample size of only a couple properties, you can see where it really comes down to which specific properties sold having more of an impact on the average sold price. So just because the average sold price is down, that doesn't necessarily mean that average sold price for your multifamily property has come down as a result. Realistically, what we're seeing is properties that are in good working order and have all their stuff together in Eagle River are appreciating. They are going up, partly because of the natural appreciation. Also, because it's a very desirable area, tenants do want to go to Eagle River because it has a lot going for it, and also there's just not a whole lot of it. So for that reason, multifamily and Eagle River is going to remain pretty popular going into the future, I suspect. Now, let's talk about what all this means for you as a seller. Well, it's not the 2020 and 2021 market anymore. Okay, so we're not quite expecting that market where you just put anything on there and people are going to come in $40,000, $50,000 over asking price and give you all those crazy terms. That shouldn't be the expectation anymore, and we're going to have to make sure that your property shows well and we've done all the correct marketing and make sure that we're on top of everything we need to do as far as the marketing to make sure the best foot is being put forward. But this is still a solid market to be selling in because there is definitely a big shortage of homes in the area. And the reason for that is just about everybody refinanced a couple of years ago when the interest rates were like 2 or 3%. And now, unless you really have to, there's not really going to be much of a chance that you're moving anywhere unless you just absolutely have to. Now, if you are a buyer, some of you out there are probably thinking, well, this looks really intense right now. The average sold price is going up as the interest rates are going up. I'm just going to play it smart. I'm just going to hang back and wait until something happens. Well, realistically, I'm not really expecting a big shift to happen anytime in the near future that's going to be in the buyer's interest. What I suspect is going to happen is inventory is going to remain low because why would it go up, right? Like the reason the inventory is low right now is because the sellers have really low interest rates, and the interest rates going up and up and up is just going to actually compound that effect. So you're really not going to see a whole lot of shaking up in the inventory based on what we're seeing here for the foreseeable future. The only thing that would shake a lot of these sellers loose is if the interest rates suddenly just plummeted down to approximately where they were a couple of years ago, and now they're willing to consider moving for their 3% interest rate to get like a 3 or 4% interest rate or something like that. And that would be a value proposition to them at that point. But until that happens, realistically what will happen is when the interest rates go down, all that's going to do is increase your competition you're going to have with a bunch of other buyers that are deciding to jump in right now. While the interest rates are high, you can jump in and find yourself in a position where you don't have as much competition as we had a couple of years ago where, it was insane. You had to go like $20,000 over with appraisal gaps, which means you're essentially just giving cash above and beyond whatever the amount is that you're putting down. And yeah, that gets painful. It's not really realistic for a whole lot of people. So if you're just on the fence and deciding if you should wait or not, if it makes sense for you and your life right at the moment, I'd recommend doing it. If you need to get your finances together before you can really explore doing that, that's another thing. If you're just trying to be smart and wait for the market to crash, then you're probably going to be in a world of hurt. Because, let me explain this to you real quick. Back in 2019, the average sold price year to date was about $380,000. Now it's over $500,000. So you can see why I'm really in favor of just jumping in, getting something that makes sense for you and your family within your time frame and your finances, and be able to at least have that, because interest rates drop, then that's going to give you a ton of competition. And not only are you going to be in a place where you have competition, but you're also going to have the higher prices of the appreciation in the future as well. So that's really why I recommend jumping in sooner. If you're an investor, make sure your numbers balance out. Make sure you've got a property that cash flows well, and that's about all I got for you right at the moment. This has been your market update for Eagle River. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, concerns, objections, make sure you throw those in the comments section, or feel free to reach out to me as well. I'd be happy to answer those as best I can for you.